Welcome to Uncomfortable, conversations about culture and Christianity. My name is Eric, and today I'm joined by Rachel.
Hello.
And Alex.
I'm here.
And our very special guest, Mr. Danny Woodhead.
I'm also here.
Yes, thank you for being here. Danny Woodhead, if you do not know, NFL running back, superstar pretty much, right? I
think superstar would definitely be a stretch.
Oh, okay.
But while we're here,
yeah, sure.
All right. Let's call it superstar.
I feel like if I can Google your name and like the little synopsis shows up on the right hand side and gives me like a link to your Wikipedia, I feel like that's pretty big stuff. Yeah.
In comparison to us, for sure.
I think my parents paid for that.
Oh,
and they're like, hey, they paid, said, hey, could we make a Wikipedia of Danny Woodhead? You know, and
they are.
That's how it started. Money. Yeah, my parents just desperate for fame, and that's what they want. They want me to be considered a superstar.
I hope they're listening and they're proud. No, we like to, whenever we have a guest, we like to ask them 3 questions to kind of, just get our listeners familiarized with who you are,
and judge you,
and warm me up.
Yep. Warm me up.
That's really what it's about. It's like stretching. First question is: have you ever had a nickname, and if so, what is it?
I would say the most popular one's Woody, or Wood, just play on, the Woodhead last name. And my dad had that nickname, my older brother, and my grandpa. So
Toy Story.
Yeah, because we really like Toy Story is how it all worked out.
Do you have a lot of Toy Story?
Well, my best friend, we called him Buzz, and sometimes we'd fight. So
that's awesome.
I was Woody, and he was Buzz.
That's great. Well, there we go. We have your nickname. Question number 2: if you had a warning label, what would yours be?
Warning, Danny Woodhead, ...
I don't like. What are you looking for? What are you saying?
We're not fishing.
We're just if you wanted people to know something about you, like in advance, like warning.
That I like to think, and my family would say it, that I kind of live out loud, which I think can be good sometimes.
Yeah,
but I think there can be people can get uncomfortable.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Man.
Right? I thought I'd throw that out.
You're in the right
there.
place.
Yeah. But that I'm a pretty real person, and sometimes that can it can make people uncomfortable. And so I would say that's the warning before you may meet me.
All right, last question. What's the last book that you've read?
I don't read a lot.
Okay.
I don't. If I read, it's only. And I'm not doing this because this is a churchy little podcast, but it's either the Bible or it's devotionals or it's a spiritual book. So I'd say the last one I actually read was Brand New by Les from Lifegate.
Yeah.
That or Crash the Chatterbox by Stephen Furtick.
Okay.
Those
I was
count.
brand new. I've got some friends reading it. I got a friend that doesn't go to Lifegate that's reading it, and she's loved it so far.
It's super good. It's it's obviously geared toward people that may not know Jesus, but I've been following Jesus for 30 years now, and I thought it was an amazing book just to it kind of just takes you back to square one a little bit, but also there's just some good things too at this time of your life, just to kind of, I don't want to say go back to basics, but in some ways that's what I've tried to do since I retired, is go back to just loving Jesus and loving people, which can seem kind of basic. So yeah, it's an awesome book. I think anyone, whether you've been a believer for 30 years or for 5 minutes or not a believer at all.
Yeah. And just for point of reference for people that don't know who Les is, we all kind of know, but
right.
lead pastor
of Lifegate.
Lifegate here in Omaha.
Yep.
So great friends of CCC, and so grateful for the ministry we get to do together.
All right. Well, why don't we start off with just hearing a little bit of your story? Just give us kind of maybe a brief overview of, the highlight reel, if you will.
Yeah, the highlight reel. I don't know.
What got you to retirement? I mean, I think you're probably one of our youngest guests, probably our youngest guest ever that's retired.
Right.
On the show.
So the story of Danny Woodhead, I guess, leading up to being retired.
Yeah.
And I grew up in North Platte, Nebraska, small town in Nebraska. I mean, some people don't consider that Nebraska, west of Lincoln, but North Platte's about 4 hours west of here. And
you can play chicken and tic-tac-toe in North Platte.
Right. And that's about it.
I took my son there this summer to play the chicken.
Oh, did you really?
Because I used to do that as a child, try to go to the bumper cars and
fair.
The real cool stuff in North Platte. So
there's just a lot of things to do there. So no, I'm grateful for it. I grew up in a smallish town, not a small Nebraska town, but grew up there with 3 siblings and 2 amazing parents. And I'm not just saying that because they could be listening, because if they do, I really don't care. But kind of a family that parents that taught us and brought us along to just love Jesus. And I think that's the biggest thing that I could take away from what they did. And obviously sports became important to me. My dad was a coach. He was a teacher. So I was around sports, and I knew I wanted to play sports. It was either I wanted to play in the NBA or the NFL. And, that's every kid's dream, right? And people say, oh yeah, that's really realistic. Good luck with that. And I guess that was just a dream that I had. And I was fortunate enough that in high school ended up being pretty good at football and pretty good at sports, and kind of got me on the radar of some college teams, and not enough college teams, not the Nebraska Cornhuskers. So I didn't really get the opportunity to play there.
Wow.
And, it was one of those things that it was, how tough is it? I could cry about it.
Yeah.
I didn't get to go to Nebraska, but I still got to go to school. I still got to play football in college. And, it was a tough deal because I thought I maybe had the stats or whatever to get there. But it obviously wasn't to happen. And it was kind of God's writing this story that he writes, and I was trying to write my own story. And he basically said, no, you're going to go to Chadron State. And it's like, oh, Chadron State, right? 6,000 people or 7,000 people when the school's there.
Yeah.
So that's not the University of Nebraska at Lincoln Division I football team. But he opened a door, and what I was supposed to do was walk through it, and it gave me 2 more years to play football with my older brother, who was my best friend. And so that was an amazing, blessing, great experience. And we lived together for 2 years before he moved on, and ended up having a really good career at Chadron. Was able to, do some cool things there, and thought I'd get an opportunity once it was the NFL. And the NFL, once they came calling or whatever, they didn't really call because I didn't get invited to the combine, which that's what you do, is you go to the combine if you're supposedly good enough.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't happen. Thought it would because of the accolades or the records that I had set. Thought that was just kind of a shoo-in, that okay, he's gonna be able to go to the combine, try to prove what he can prove, and then it's done. And then they shut the door on that. I'm like, what the heck? What are you doing, God? I don't really understand it. And a month later, or maybe not even a month, Coach Osborne said that I could come to the pro day down at Nebraska, where they usually didn't have people outside of Nebraska come to the pro days. Well, fortunately, I go in and have a really good pro day and put up some really good numbers. And so you're thinking, okay, this is great. I'm going to get drafted because the numbers aligned with the top of running backs at the combine. So naturally, you're like, oh, I had a good college career. I had good film. I was at the top of my class. And everything that I did for the pro day, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to get drafted. Let's see where that goes. Well, I didn't get drafted. All 7 rounds comes, and end up getting a call from the New York Jets, and I end up going out there as an undrafted free agent. And the thing that people don't realize is when you go in as an undrafted free agent, you're not on the team.
Yeah.
You're signed, but you're not on the team. So it looked like the best scenario, the best option. God led me there for a reason, and ended up having a really good spring, a really, really good spring. And then started training camp well, and day 2, I think practice 2, I tore my ACL. And I remember talking to my wife, who I was just married to, on the phone and saying, I'm done. Like, this is over. I have no interest in it. They're not gonna keep a small white running back from Chadron State College as an undrafted free agent who they have no money put into. Like, there's no investment. I was like, I'm done. And she goes, well, let's just take a deep breath. I was like, no, I'm not taking a deep breath. What are you talking about? Like, why do we need to take deep breaths? Yeah. When I already know what's going on.
Yeah.
And so it's funny, that was on the way to the doctor's office getting my knee checked, even though they knew it was torn. And I still remember sitting in the room, the patient room, and I really felt like God was saying, no, you're going to play next year. And then I proceeded to question him and saying, do you know anything about the NFL? It was like, do you have a clue? Can you see me? Like, what's going on? Like, I don't know why you'd try to make a guess that I'll play in the NFL, but you're wrong. It's kind of like what I was saying.
Yeah.
And he said, no, you're gonna play in the NFL. Just do what you're supposed to do. He said, just work hard.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So it's like I'm going in faith and telling everyone, I'm like, well, I think I'm gonna play. Yeah. Like, I'm just gonna work as hard as I can. I really believe I'm gonna play. Well, the next year I end up making the team. I end up playing in 10 games or whatever. And, it was pretty awesome. Well, the next year, end up making the team the first game, get cut the next day. And I'm like, all right, God, like, we're doing this again, aren't we? Like, what's happening? A couple days go, don't get signed by anyone or claimed, whatever you want to call it. So we decide to come back to Omaha, and we're driving back, and I remember being like, I don't know. Like, I have no idea if this is going to continue. And this is after 2 years, going into my 3rd year. And it was just like, all right, man, like, whatever you want to do, you're going to do. I can't really, I'm not going to try to control this, even though I'm probably still going to try to control it at some point. And that Friday night, we get back, I think, Thursday night, that Friday night, we get a call from the New England Patriots. And they said, I think we're going to have you out. And who do they play that week? The New York Jets. So I'm thinking, all they're doing is they're calling me to get intel. They're calling me they need to know what the offense does. And that's all they're doing it for. But I'm like, whatever, at least I get a paycheck, right?
Yeah.
Well, you have to be there on Saturday by 4:00 in order to get the paycheck. We're flying out at 5:00 in the morning, mechanical problems, all kind of problems. Just to finish this part of that story, we get there at 3:57, and I'm like, "Thank you, Lord," because I don't know if I'm gonna get another paycheck. That's the NFL. You're like, you sign on, you take a week anytime you can.
Yeah,
because it's like, a lot of guys will, there's a lot of money in the NFL, but if you get paid only 1 week, you're not really making money.
Yeah.
So, we got there at 3:57. I was just so thankful. I was like, this is amazing. And we know we're going to get a paycheck. And so then we're there, and they had already left for New York. So I'm like, they're going to keep me around next week, that means. So I'm going to at least get 2 paychecks, which is awesome. And it's crazy how things work. The 3rd down back at New England tears his ACL that week, which is what I do. And I remember walking in the next day or on Monday and just being like cramming just to try to figure out the offense, because I had Monday to Wednesday morning to learn an offense that was completely different than the New York offense. And I just was like, you know what? I'm going to figure it out. Whatever I have to do, I'm going to work hard as I can and let the chips kind of fall, let God do whatever the heck he wants with it. Well, that week I end up scoring my first career touchdown in the NFL. And I remember going back, we were staying in an extended stay and we didn't feel comfortable enough to get an apartment yet. Cause we're like, we might get fired still. Right. And I remember me and my wife were like, I'm on like Sports Center, on all kinds of stuff. And we're like watching, and me and my wife are like sitting on the couch, like, what happened? Like, what did God just do? Like, this is kind of weird. And not weird enough to get an apartment that week, but we went on, and I ended up playing the next game on Monday night and scoring a touchdown on Monday night, and then we decided to get an apartment because we're like, okay, thank you, Lord, we're gonna be here at least for this long, and then God does amazing things, like He has my whole life. We end up signing a contract extension for an extra 2 years, play there, and then the next step was free agency. Didn't know where we were going to go. I didn't really want to be in New England anymore because there's some things that I didn't love about it, or maybe how I felt like I was treated. Not that they treated me poorly, but I just didn't think I was being treated how I expected to be. And I remember in free agency, we come to this one day and it's like, hey, I'm done. Like, let's move on. I want to go somewhere else. Well, we were having a Bible study, actually, my brother, me, and a guy named Tracy Rice, who used to be actually here in Omaha, pastor at Lifegate. And I remember sitting down, and me and my wife talked that morning. We said, hey, let's not like deadline God, but like if God, because we had this contract offer, if no one calls us by noon, then God's saying like it's time to just sign back. And I felt like God was doing something in my heart to not be angry with the Patriots anymore, because I didn't want to go back there at all. And then, so it got to around noon, and I said, all right, it's time to sign. And I had a huge peace about it. And as I'm talking to my agent, telling him that I want to sign there, the San Diego Chargers call. And I knew right then and there God had opened a door to San Diego, and we ended up going there for 4 years. Had some injuries, had some trials, had some craziness. But it's kind of amazing just kind of how God has worked in my whole career. And then towards the end, I was going into free agency again as a 31-year-old. Thought I was going to have the best year of my career, ended up tearing my other ACL. And I was like, God, this sucks. Like, what are you doing? And he told me that I was going to get the biggest contract of my career. And I thought, yet again, like, what are you doing? Or like, you don't know the NFL. And he obviously does. He's the creator of the world. And it ends up as a 31-year-old coming off a torn ACL, I get the biggest contract of my career. And more than anything, I think he took me to Baltimore to retire. And it was really cool because when I was there, because I had a torn hamstring, God took the love of playing away from me. Whereas a lot of guys, they retire and they still love the game, and I still love the game, but still love to play and want to play. I have no desire to play. And he completely took the love away, and basically told me it was time to go home. And it's really cool when God can it's cool when you have plans and God kind of trumps them, and they're way cooler than your plans were.
Yeah.
And that's where it leads me now. It's a little kind of a long-winded story, but it's been really cool. He's had his hand in it all. There's times that suck. There have been many times that like, this is stupid. I don't like this. And God's known, obviously, because he knows everything, but also because I voice it to him. Like, man, like what the heck are you doing?
Yeah.
But he's been amazing. He's always been faithful, and man, I'm so thankful for where we are at right now as a family. We have 4 kids. My high school sweetheart wife, Stacia, and we have 4 kids, and man, we're really happy with where we're at. We're happy to be home. We're happy to, Alex saying like, oh man, it's because I said it's cold. And he's like, yeah, what were you doing moving back? And I kind of think the same thing sometimes, but also it's like, I'm so happy I am.
Yeah.
We have family in Nebraska. The people that are important to us, and man, we're at such a good place, and we're so thankful to be here.
Cool.
That's good.
As you were talking, and I think you're a little bit older and you've got some perspective about how God's been working and wisdom inside of that. But I'm curious, because most of us in the world aren't gonna ever try out for the NFL.
Right, that's fair.
I still have some dreams sometimes, but I don't think
Keep
it's gonna
dreaming,
happen.
bro.
Yeah.
You might.
I'm like,
there.
if Danny can, I can.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a chance.
So you give us hope. But no. But honestly, going back to, because I think what people can relate to is I have the perfect resume to get what I feel like I deserve. And so like in high school, right? Like you're being modest. Like you in high school literally like had all in Nebraska, like the state of Nebraska. There's a lot of great running people like went before you. Eric Crouch.
Yep.
Guy won a Heisman, things like you broke all of Eric's records, right? Like all his rushing records, you broke a few of those, right? Who went on to not just play at Nebraska, but was a Heisman, winner. And so when you're like, I've got this resume in high school that I should, and I deserve something, and there's people telling you to deserve it, and there's nothing else you can do in your power.
Right.
Like, what's that feeling like for like the high school kid that's like, I've done everything, I've applied, or the person that's like, I've done everything to set myself up. I've met every goal people told me for what success should get me to that next level, and then it's not happening. Like in that moment, without like all the perspective, what's the feeling?
It sucks.
Yeah.
Like I was mad.
Yeah.
I felt like and back then, the way you got recruited was you would go to camps. Well, I went to the Nebraska camp and the numbers were some of the best.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was the best player at the camp. And they told me that they didn't even tell me I could walk on. So that did it hurt? I mean, what's hurt, right? Like, yeah, I was mad and I felt like I deserved to play there, but like, who cares, right? Like looking back, like that was what my idea of what was supposed to happen, and I'm thankfully I grew up with parents that, it was all on, what God wants in your life, and his ways obviously are higher than ours, and all the scripture verbiage that everyone may not want to hear, but it's super true and it's awesome that I was able to live it out.
Yeah.
In some ways, I'm very thankful for my road because I was able to see God in like a totally different way that I maybe wouldn't have been able to see. And the thing that's really cool and that I like to talk about all the time is it's like when all those bad things have happened, or so-called bad, the torn ACLs, the not getting drafted, all that did in my eyes, like what I think of it as, is it kind of shined light on Jesus a little bit more, because it's like, no, wait, watch this. And I remember when I first tore my ACL as a rookie, and I felt like it was God saying, watch this. Like, I'm going to take an undrafted small school kid, and their white running backs weren't playing at that time. And he said, and then I'm going to make you make the team. And it's like, yeah, like, I don't know if that's going to happen. It's like
statistically, that does not happen.
Are you into analytics, God?
Yeah.
But he said, no. Like, I'm going to get glory for this. And that's what's been really cool through like the whole story, my life, is I really feel like the light's been on him. And that's what's been kind of cool, because I've been able to, experiences are everything, right?
Yeah.
When you get to experience it, it plays a huge part in your life.
Yeah.
Cool. That's good. What would you say? Sorry to hog the question.
No, just go for it. But you're good.
Because I think a lot of people are like, did you play with the chip on your shoulder? That's kind of like when you're somebody that doesn't get what you deserved or you're injured. And would you say, hey, I was the guy with the chip on my shoulder, or you had a different perspective that wasn't that classic, I've got something to prove? Like, where was your faith in that? Where was like the...
So if you've done like a strengths finder test, competition's number one.
Okay.
So to say there was no chip at all would be a lie.
Yeah.
For sure. But I also played with like a crazy amount of peace and like not anger.
Okay.
So like I'm not like mad. I'm not mad at Frank Solich.
Yeah.
I'm not. I mean, do I think he made a mistake? Yeah. But I'm not mad at him. Like, and I think that's because of Jesus and his plan for my life. Because if it were just me, I would have been so mad at him. If I didn't have Jesus living in me, I would have been so mad. And I would have wanted to be like, yeah, told you so. Or like some of the other coaches or general managers in the NFL, like, told you so. Like that's what my flesh would have wanted to do.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I just wasn't mad. And I not for some reason, I think it was because of the Holy Spirit living in me, that's why. That's the reason I wasn't mad and did the told you so. Yeah. I mean, is there some times when people have talked about it and they've said, hey, what do you think about this? Like, that's pretty cool, isn't it? And in some ways, isn't it kind of cool to come from a small school? And isn't it kind of cool that, you know, in some ways that you can be like, see, like maybe a little your competitive side. But man, I'm just so blessed to have a family, a wife and kids and parents and siblings that, you know, love me and kind of help me in my walk with Jesus. Like the football stuff's cool. Like I had a lot of fun doing it, but like that's just not who I am.
Yeah.
So like I'm just blessed to have the people that I've had around me and the friends that I've had around me.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I feel like that's good because it kind of leads into a question that I had of like you've been doing professional football for so long and it's this like significant thing, like everybody's watching, it's like a big deal and you are in the middle of it, and then now that you're retired, I feel like how did you process like your significance, I guess, almost like worth is probably a lot. People probably think there's a lot more worth of being a professional football player, and now you've retired. How did you work through, am I significant? What is my purpose now? That kind of thing.
I would say the first 2 to 3 months were hard. And it wasn't because I missed football. I think it was just, so I always said that my identity wasn't in football, but I did spend a lot of time doing it.
Yeah.
So like just the difference of not being or getting ready for a season or practicing, just in the gym, all that stuff for football was different, and I didn't know what to do. So that was the hardest part. That was like, it was almost like I got anxiety and almost in a depressive mode for a couple months. And it was just like, what the heck am I doing? Yeah. I'd be sitting on the couch and I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I don't know if you like, where do I put my hands? You know, like it was like one of these things. I didn't know where to put my hands. But as far as like the significance and the purpose, I can't say I ever struggled big time with that. I think it was just the new normal of a routine. God did some really cool things in my life, and as far as from retirement on, and like, because there would be times I'd be golfing and my brothers are working, and I don't want to say I felt guilty, but I was like, man, I golf 4 or 5 times a week, like, and my brothers are working, and
they're not jealous at all.
No, not jealous. Right, and that's what I'm very thankful for. But I almost started feeling guilty, and I was like praying about it one day. He's like, no, like don't. He said, like, use the light that you have, whether you're golfing, whether you're meeting for lunch with someone, whether you're in a business meeting, whatever it is, like just like love people and like let my light shine off of you, and that's what you're supposed to be doing right now. So as far as purpose, hopefully that answers it a little bit more. Is my purpose right now is to just try to show love to people. I don't know what it looks like all the time. Sometimes it's being a really good friend to someone. Sometimes it's being a good brother. Sometimes it's most of the time it's trying to be a good dad and husband. But that's what I see my purpose right now, is just trying to live a little bit more like him, and hopefully he shines kind of reflects off of me a little bit.
Cool. Good.
So what are some of your thoughts on I mean, athletes in general? I think you get recruited at a fairly young age into the NFL. You're dealing with all this fame, money. There's things that you've never had to encounter before. You have people looking up to you. And then you couple that with things like concussions that happen to people. There's a lot of debate around that. Where do you see like the responsibility of these athletes? Because they're not really prepared for a lot of that when they get. It's just kind of thrust upon them, and then and now here's this new world, and
it's a tough deal. They try to help. The NFL does, like bringing people in, but it's like, you're a young kid.
Yeah.
The last thing you're worried about is that, especially like if you're in my situation, you're worried about trying to find a way to scrape and make the team. Mm-hmm. So like that was my focus. I wasn't worried about all these financial people or just people trying to say, oh, you're a professional athlete, you're a target, So I wasn't worried about that, and I obviously wasn't at that level either. I wasn't a first rounder who had just tons of money. But it's something that's different, and because most people don't have that type of success financially at that age. Like, I mean, it's anywhere from 21 to 22 to, Tom's 42, but to most like 35.
Yeah.
Like and 35's old. So let's be honest, probably 32. So it's a different world, and some of it you have to find out on your own. Yeah. You have a lot of people trying to pull you in different directions, like family. Maybe they're trying to ask for money, or they want their hand in that or this. And I'm so thankful that I had such a healthy relationship with my parents that was never asked of. Mm-hmm. And if they did ask for money, or like if they would have, they raised me in a way that I would have said, like, what are you doing? Like, don't do that. Like, I mean, if you're struggling, maybe I could help, obviously, like, but they weren't going to come to me and be like, we need money.
Yeah.
But thankfully my parents were never at that situation.
Yeah.
But some people do it just because they want a piece of it.
Yeah.
You find out really, really, really fast who really cares about you. Really fast. And it's interesting. You're in year 2, year 3, and it's like, oh, you're getting tons of text messages on people wanting to be friends. It's like, oh yeah, remember when you were the guy that didn't think I was going to be playing?
Yeah.
Not that matters, but
it kind of mattered.
But you just realize who's your friend. Like, don't come talk to me after I score a touchdown in the Super Bowl. Like, I mean, I'll still talk to you, but I'm saying, like, to me, you find out who really, really cares about you, which sucks because you find out you don't have very many friends.
Yeah.
But is also awesome because you find out who your friends are.
That's cool. That's cool. So quickly, there's a couple people that had just questions. I put this on social media, and I'm sure people are always asking you questions. I've seen you just on Twitter been like, I'm going to answer some questions.
Right.
And people are interested in the NFL. So there's this guy named Michael that he listens every week. So I'm going to, at least I know since
Mikey,
he listens
what's up?
every week, I'm going to ask
Hey, Michael, do you care if I call you Mikey?
We'll get back to you on that. Just a funny NFL story. Bizarre, funny, most of us just normal people will never live.
There weren't a ton of like just funny, because the crazy thing is it's such a business.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there are times we'd laugh. But a lot of it's probably stuff you can't put out on the air.
Okay.
But more than anything, like, when you're there, it's a business because it's a job. Whereas in college, you have way more funny stories.
Yeah.
Whereas in the NFL, it's a job. You have your teammates have families, so when they're done, they go home, and then you talk to them the next day at work. It's not like, oh yeah, and then you go hang out and play video games. It doesn't work like that. So there weren't really, I mean, nothing that like sticks out that I can really remember.
Did people make fun of like Bill Belichick's cutoffs? Or
not so much the cutoffs, because you walk into that's the crazy thing is you walk into a NFL locker room and the type of stuff that guys wear. Like as far as like cutoff, like I wore pants every day. I wore pants to work out in. I wore hoodies. Sometimes I'd wear a cutoff hoodie, long sleeve underneath. So no one really made fun of Bill just because the most bizarre stuff, like guys would practice in hoodies. Yeah. Under their jerseys. So Bill's actually a little bit behind. I mean, like people think he brought it. Like he's a little bit behind. I think in the cutoff hoodie fashion statement.
Okay. I believe you. So who would you say like in the NFL are some of your most influential people? Like they influenced you, maybe it's spiritually, just as a football player. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean,
people from the NFL. You're saying.
I mean, like you. I think there's not a lot of debate that like Tom Brady is the GOAT, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and you like played with him. He threw you a football, you caught it, you scored a touchdown in the biggest game known to man. Like what's it like to just be a teammate of people like that?
I don't want to minimize like anyone, but like it's really whatever. Yeah. Like, because everyone thinks of Tom Brady, like, oh gosh, this is amazing. If I saw Tom, I'd be like, hey, what's up, Tom? How you doing? Like, I worked with him. Yeah. So like, there's nothing that the maybe one of the times I was kind of starstruck or whatever was my rookie year. We signed Brett Favre, so he was on our team my first year. That was a little bit starstruck at the beginning, but then it's just like you're like, he's here to do what I'm here to do. And
sell Wranglers.
Yes. He's here to do what I'm here to do, and that's to wear Wranglers and cowboy boots and a cutoff and throw the football around.
Awesome.
But so there's no like, there are some very influential people. A lot of like people that most wouldn't know. Matthew Slater, he played for the Patriots. He's played on 3 Super Bowl teams or winning teams. Darryl Stuckey, he was in San Diego. Those guys spiritually were huge in my life as far as, guys that could keep you accountable and stuff of that, stuff spiritually they were. And then, there are other people that influenced me football wise, but that would be spiritually.
Cool. Those are a few of the questions I had that I fielded on.
Did we have any more from social media?
From the interwebs? There's a couple others from the interwebs. One of them is, and I think you've answered some of these, just to satisfy this person, because I think only this person is going to really know what's going on in you, because I don't know what it means. So this person was at Shattern over the summer, which is where you played football in college, and they noticed that there was a countdown. And you might have to define this to us.
I might not even know.
Until the BHSU game.
Oh, so that's Black Hills State. I never played them, though.
Okay, you never played them. That's what they want to know.
So they're considered a rival-ish, I think, now.
Okay.
But they weren't Division II. So
all right.
When I played a long time ago. So we didn't play Black Hills.
So he didn't have any good games against them, and the game didn't mean anything to him, buddy. Sorry.
Yeah, I did. I'll be honest. It really. I
asked the question though.
Yeah, you did your due diligence. That's what's important. I don't think I have any other questions from my list of the questions. So,
I'm curious a little bit about like just stewardship. So like you had a pretty good job. We're not going to ask you how much money you made or anything like that, but I'm guessing it's more than I make. Just a guess.
Yours isn't public, so I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it is. I mean, if you're a member of the church, you could go find out. So, but I'm not trying to get you jump ship. Anyway, So how have you wrestled with that? Like stewardship of your finances as you've moved on and knowing you're retired now, how have you wrestled with you've talked about this a little bit, stewardship of your time and how you do and don't feel guilty, what you want to do continuing in your life and like how your kids, like, you've got young kids and how they perceive my dad is retired and out golfing how do you just wrestle through that?
I mean, I actually like talking about money.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it because not that I've made so much money, but I played 10 years in the NFL and it's definitely lucrative. I mean, financially. But I like to talk about it because I grew up, had $500 to my name when I was married, and we were off to New York to try to make a team, not even on the team. And 100% I'm not any happier right now than I was then. Yes, has it I see it more as God's, given us some resources to help others. And I mean, obviously, and take care of our family too. But I'm not happier. And I think the thing is, people are always chasing money. And I think that's a good thing to want to be successful, but that it's just so not what people would think it is. Yeah, you can, you're going to be able to, pay your mortgage. You're going to be able to pay your bills. But it's not everything. I think, and people are like, yeah, it's easy to say for you now. Well, back then I was super happy and I still had the joy of the Lord, and I still was married. And I mean, maybe I'm happier now, but that's because I have kids, and I've been able to see a lot of different things. So I think as far as on just the money topic, it can be great. But there's also a lot of responsibility too. Like that's the thing that I wrestle with all the time is, just asking God what you want me to do with it, whether it's investing, whether it's, being generous in some area. But I mean, that's what it's fun for, as far as like stewardship of my time. And I sometimes that's what it is. It's being there for people, whether it be with your family, whether it be with some friend, whether it be just saying hi to someone that might be having a crap day, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be available. Now, am I super available? No, because I'm available to my kids and my wife.
Yeah.
But I think that's something that's ongoing, and God's showing me, and more than anything, He's showing up and being like, "Hey, this is what I want you to do now." And it's been really cool to see. He'll just kind of put things in my way. And I know this may seem, maybe you guys don't see it as a big deal, but even like coming on here, like that's hopefully getting my story about. I was even praying about it before, like, Lord, like, I don't even know what it's going to be like, but if you could, like, maybe use this time and maybe it encourages someone. Maybe they just laugh.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not that encouraged with my story. They're like, I hate football. He kind of sounds like a loser. I'm like, okay, like that's fine, but maybe for 30 seconds out of this little conversation, they laughed a little bit. Like he has a stupid nickname, or whatever it may be. And I think God can use like really weird stuff like that, and I think that's cool.
Yeah, that is cool. Yeah, and you've done a lot of other podcasts and things like that where you have the not church podcasts, but sports podcasts, just because people want to hear from you, they want to hear your opinion, they want to hear, and you steward that. That's
right.
awesome.
Well, and the thing is, like, it could be I've done faith podcasts, I've done Barstool sports podcasts. Like some people would be like, why would you be on there? I don't know. Like maybe I'm the only person that loves Jesus that's been on there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, why not? And
I think Alex actually had a question based on that.
Yeah, do it.
Well, someone wanted to know which podcast is better, this or Barstool.
Well, I got to be honest.
You haven't listened to this.
I haven't listened to this.
Yeah, that's...
I also got to be honest. I've listened to a couple only of the Barstool, so I haven't been podcasting much. And I'm really interested in it because I even have interest in doing one myself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I'm not interested enough that I listen all the time.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I really appreciate you being here. I think this has been fun. Unless anybody else has any final.
If anyone else has some random question, I'm cool.
No, this is great.
No, okay.
Grateful for like he said, grateful for you being here, giving us your time and
letting us know all your nicknames and
that's really
hobbies.
That's really probably the most important part. Is my nickname.
I think that's exciting for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but for real, thanks for being here. And if anyone else is out there listening right now to this conversation and they have more questions for you, you like to answer questions on your social media accounts. Can you pitch those a little bit? Let people know.
It's at Danny _Woodhead.
Okay.
Is my Twitter.
All right.
And then Instagram is TeamWoody39.
Okay. All right. Well,
so
hopefully
reach out.
You'll just get inundated.
I mean,
I
got to be honest. Probably not going to answer much on Instagram because I'm not going to. You don't chat
So go to Twitter.
It's just different. Twitter's the way to go.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening to this week's episode. We'll be back next week. If you want to reach out to us, you can send us an email to podcast@cccomaha.org, or you can reach out to us on social media @cccomaha. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.